Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to share with you an interesting article that was published by the New York Times, and also an acute analysis that a famous MSNBC broadcaster, told or made in a remarkable video. I just want to let you know that I had an early wake up at 3 a.m. to watch live the debate. And I've been watching the presidential debate and also vice president debates since 2000. In debate with Trump, Harris' expressions were a weapon. Tuesday's debate was expected to center on defining Kamala Harris. Instead, with words and with body language, she turned it into a referendum on Donald Trump. She turned to him with an arched brow, a quiet sigh, a hand on her chin, a laugh, a pitiful glance, a dismissive shake of her head. From the opening moments of the first debate against Donald Trump, and Kamala Harris craftily exploited her opponent's biggest weakness. Not his record, not his divisive policies, not his history of inflammatory statements. Instead, she took aim at a far more primal part of him, his ego. At his rallies on his syncopathic social media network and surrounded by flatters at Mar-a-Lago, Mr. Trump is unquestioned, unchallenged, and never ever mocked. That changed over the course of the 19 minutes in the Philadelphia on Tuesday, when the woman who had never before met him succeeded, bit by bit, in puncturing his comfortable cocoon and triggering his annoyance and anger. Mrs. Harris questioned the size and loyalty of the crowd at his rallies. She said world leader called him a disgrace, and she claimed his fortune was built by his father, recasting a business mogul who proudly boasts of being a self-made man and just another nepotism baby. Then she stood by and watched as Mr. Trump did himself a whole lot of damage. Mrs. Harris worked to puncture Mr. Trump's comfortable cocoon and trigger his annoyance and anger. In answer after answer, the former president reminded Americans of his role in so much of what many would rather forget, the deadly and devastating pandemic, his refusal to accept the result of the 2020 election, a bloody siege on U.S. Capitol, and the fall of Roe and Wade. The Roe and Wade was, the bill on the abortion, which allowed the abortion. He lingered on his criminal charge and praised Victor Orban. He praised Victor Orban, famous populist, right-wing extremist, the strongman leader of Hungary. He defended a false claim that migrants in Ohio, in Springfield, are eating their neighbors' dogs and cats, and recycled year-old anti-abortion attack lines that Democrats supported execution after birth. And it was a gigantic lie. And also, the moderator, replied that in the United States, no one state allowed the execution of a bird. In such a fractured and polarized country, it remains unclear how the lopsided debate may alter the 2024 presidential race. But the immediate reaction was telling Mr. Trump led Republicans in attacking the moderators. The debate was 3-on-1, he complained, while Democrats notched perhaps the most important endorsement of the election cycle with Taylor Swift, the most famous musician, not only in the United States, but all over the world. Since her head is spinning essential to the Democratic ticket, in July, Mrs. Harris has faced a race focused on her record, history, and shifting position. But from the moment she crossed the stage to shake Mr. Trump's hand, the Democratic presidential nominee made clear her intention to transform a night expected to be about her into a referendum on him. She displayed a composure and tactical restraint that was palpable through the television screen. Equally palpable was his fury, which at times seemed to make him unable to even look at his opponent. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist, explained Trump. Mrs. Harris accused him of coddling China during the coronavirus pandemic. Her father is a Marxist, exclaimed Trump. Was a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. Mrs. Harris looked at him with a condescending smile, performatively leaning in to hear more. He's the former reality television star, but she clearly understood the power of the medium. Her expression was rebuttal, and when he turned to speak, when a turn to speak came, she focused not on rebutting the attack on her character and ideology, but on the far more politically potent issue of abortion rights. Mr. Trump, she charged would ban abortion nationwide and monitor women's pregnancies to ensure they carry the baby to term. Already current restriction in some states, she told viewers, make no exception for victims of rape and incest. That is immoral, and one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government and Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body, she said. Instead of attacking Mr. Trump as an existential threat to democracy, as President Biden so often did, Mrs. Harris invited the voters to judge the former president for themselves. She urged them to attend one of his campaign events, hear some references to fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter, and his claims that windmills cause cancer, and watch his followers leave early. In the first face-to-face meeting, Kamala Harris put Donald Trump on the defensive as the former president tried to tire unpopular Biden administration policies. The one thing you will not hear him talk about is you, she said into the camera. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams and your desire. And I tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will. Mr. Trump quickly responded, but not to dispute a criticism that he was not to turn into voters' needs. Instead, he defended his crowd. At the end of the debate, Mrs. Harris turned one of the worst moments of the Biden presidency, the United States withdrawal from Afghanistan, into an attack on Mr. Trump, saying, he negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine with the Taliban, and he invited its leaders to Camp David. Even Mr. Trump, ally, grudgingly admitted that Harris' strategy of trying to knock Mr. Trump off balance was very effective. In my opinion, Vice President Harris gave the most overwhelmingly strong performance by a presidential debater in the history of the presidential debates. And I can assure you that since 2000 I've been watching the presidential debate, and I've never seen a debater like Kamala Harris. As Lawrence O'Donnell says in one of his latest remarkable videos, he says that from the very beginning, with the entrance of the candidates, Donald Trump obviously entered with the plan not to shake hands. Vice President Harris entered with the opposite plan, and she took full charge of that moment, very much against Donald Trump. You sit timidly and slowly on the left side of your screen, thinking maybe slowing his work down would give him a later, cooler entrance. But Kamala Harris, 20 years younger, stride in purposely said for Donald Trump and instantaneously established domination over him. We are going to do this my way is the subtext of what she is saying to Donald Trump with that outstretched hand. For 9 minutes, she spoke directly to the American people, sometimes directly to Donald Trump, and when she wasn't speaking, she was always turning and listening to Donald Trump the way a human being would. And in a way to emphasize by listening the absurdity, the lies that what Donald Trump was saying with a human reaction to what she was hearing. Donald Trump chose 2 modes at the podium. He did not once dare to turn and look at the Vice President of the United States when she was speaking, just backshot face. She wasn't looking at the moderators either. He wasn't looking at the American people through the camera. He was looking at nothing, just lost in the wilderness of his own confusion of what was happening to him. And what was happening to him was that he was being beaten, but worse than any losing candidate in any presidential debate in history. What you saw in Kamala Harris was simply the most overwhelming strong performance by a presidential debater in the history of a presidential debate, which began in 1960, debate between Nixon and JFK Kennedy. And I had a chance to watch this video recently, and I encourage you to watch because it was the first televised debate. It was very, very interesting. Thank you so much for watching.